Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Raceface.Pro. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box, the one, the only, we've got Cameron de Bastos. Welcome, Cameron, to the final round, and what a way to do it. In the land, down under, here in Australia, at the beautiful circuit of Bathurst.
Oh, absolutely, Stephen. I'm grateful to be back after last night's amazing race at LMU, and just couldn't keep me away from the action, especially after I learned that tonight's race will be quite action-packed, and it is quite a close championships. And throw in the rain at a beautiful track such as Bathurst, tricky, windy, and heartbreaking might make it difficult for our drivers out there tonight. But I'm eager to see how the drivers are going to be able to master these conditions, as it will definitely be difficult, especially in the downhill section from over the top of the mountain into Forest Elbow. But enough about that. I don't know. Let's take a look at our championship points and see how things are faring for our drivers on the circuit. Leading out our pro-am battle is, well, our pro battle is the likes of Henry Meyer. After quite a close championship, he has proven to be quite the force to be reckoned with. Closely behind is Berger Grobe, also trying to take the fight to the likes of Henry Meyer. But in third place, we have Fleming Bauer, who unfortunately tonight will not be racing due to getting a bit of a penalty and will have to set out the race. But hoping to get into third place for the championship is Gerrit Beekes, chomping at the bit and needs to score anything above the top 10 in order to get that position back from Fleming Bauer. But in fifth position, we've got Brandon Kruger, also hoping to move up position and really trying to get back into that, into more than just the top 5. Making up the rest of our top 10, we've got Jason Farmer, Daniel van Deventer, Chris Collison, Henry Platt, and then Uratile. I'm not going to say so because I'm a bit scared of saying that. But further down in our pro class, we have Quantum Pasi, Tinus Buerta, Jaco Kutze, Ruan van der Walt, Michael Schultz, Dion Kapp, Sergeant Pillay, Alex Buitendag, Mondre Klaassen, and Jean-Ray Buerta. Jumping over into our pro division, we will see that there's also another bit of action packed there for our drivers. As leading the championship there is Ron Heineke with a total of 263 points. But right close behind them, about 30 to 29 points back, is the likes of Vessel Voda. These two will be trying to outscore one another. If Vessel does go and win and Ruan does not, means that they will lose championship points there. But in third place, we've got Harry Duplessis making up our podium in our Pro-Am Championship. And in fourth, we've got Vian Putter and Johan Verveers. For the remaining of our top 10, we've got Gerard Pretorius, Jared Boscom, Werner Boshoff, Reginald Miteleni, and Anton Lammers. Now, Stephen, enough about this little point championship. Let's take a look at what our track looks like and the weather that our drivers will be experiencing tonight in the server.
Well, that's it. Let's head down and take a look, as it is rainy conditions here at Bathurst, just to really throw a wrench in the drive, and has got many drivers on the back foot. Only 2 cars have been able to put a time, or make it 3. Jason Farmer, Vian Putter, and Henk Pedersen are able to put a time on the board. Reginald Mutoleni is the next one to come through. But it is all about where you start, especially on this circuit, in these conditions. You want to be as far up through the field as possible and not to be caught out by any of the drivers behind you. The Constantino effect is going to be a hectic one for drivers to deal with. Bego Krobler goes and puts himself up into first place, now running second in the championship, unable, even if he gets a win here tonight, will not be able to get the win for the championship. That being said, he's going to try desperately to hold on to that second place. Brandon Kruger going to be firing back, going back to Kaalabi, where it was a nightmare of a race for him, getting thrown down the bottom of the field. Now looking to try and have some redemption. Jason Farmer in third place, Daniel van der Venter in fourth, as many of the drivers are going to be looking to improve. But that being said, no more pressure than one person, and that is the Stingers Racing Gerrit Bukes. He needs 4 points to get second place. Only 4 points. So anything from 10th and up in class is what he needs to secure that third place on the cards, knocking down Fleming Bauer out of the running. And this is it. No more going and holding back. Now, Gerrit needs to put the hammer down and keep giving it as much as he can.
And absolutely, and that's the tricky thing around the track, such as Bathurst, Stephen, is yes, you only need 4 points to outscore your opponent that's in front of you in the championship, but it's not always guaranteed. 4 points can be the smallest gap, but one mistake, your car can get destroyed and you drop out of that top 10 finish, and it is game over, championship over, podium done. No matter what you want to do, it is going to be difficult. And throwing in this rain, as I said earlier, it will make it a lot more difficult, especially over the top mountain just before you go into the skyline section. If you get offline there and if you clip one of those puddles and you run wide, there's no recovering from that. These walls are close, they are dangerous, and they cause a significant amount of damage on a car, which means the driver either has to tow back or will have to limp back, meaning more time loss, as the towing doesn't take as much time back. But what shocks me the most is the times that I'm seeing on these boards. The drivers are not really holding back, with the likes of Putter really sticking it out there for these top drivers, beating out even our pro drivers, just to say that. Brandon Kruger says, Cameron, take back those words, I'm going to take the top step here. But Bagger Grobler still in third, really on a good lap so far, and hoping to close down the gap. But now it is, what shocks me is these are not normally the times that I see the likes of our pro guys running. We're normally in the low 2 minutes, but then again, the rain is going to be a significant factor in slowing down these cars, as it's a balancing act between keeping it on the pretty much optimal line, but also trying to keep it off the racing line, as any bit of rubber in for ground there will make it difficult for the tires to stick there. They do have to wear tires on, but that does not mean you have the absolute maximum amount of grip within these conditions.
Well,
but
that
Stephen,
being said, a massive welcome to everyone out in the virtual grandstands that's braving the conditions. We've got a couple of big fans for the Griffin Sim Racing team and Jason Farmer. We got Antonio Gamble, Gerrit van Vuren, along with the Stiggers Racing coming in full force. Jean Fenter as well, going and giving a big shout out to all the drivers. 28 drivers are on the grid tonight. Henry Platt, Reino van der Walt, Gerald Pretorius, Lucan Hayes and Sean Lorero are yet to put a time on the board.
yes, it's absolutely going to be quite difficult with this maximum amount, these amount of drivers out here. Most of the drivers that are starting at the back of the grid will only see the green flag right even before they get to the final corner, making it very difficult for them to put the power down and gain any positions really much. But it's going to be difficult. The first corner is a tricky one. Drivers will be bunching up, a massive concertina effect, as drivers will be braking early in order to prevent from with the cold tires of going off circuit. But that will mean that drivers behind need to be awake in order to prevent a massive pileup from happening. I've seen it before in other lobbies and other leagues. It is not something pretty to notice, as that will be raced over before you even get past the first corner. So drivers will have to be very, very cautious in order to avoid that. But as you take a look at the McLaren, a monster on the circuits, really two circuits that it really loves is the likes of Bathurst and Spa, but it mainly because of its long straights. The car has an absolute significant amount of downforce, leading to a high top end speed, and is difficult to outrace, especially when it's full position. But drivers will have to be cautious and look in the mirrors, especially when the fast guys are coming around, because these conditions will make it absolutely difficult to let them pass. But let's take a look at Hey Duplessis in the Lexus, a car that I haven't seen in a long time going around the circuit. It seems to be making a bit of a comeback. It was one of the old generation cars, not really something new for our drivers, so to see it back on circuit absolutely makes me so happy. Alongside, if only the old Aston Martin, the Screaming V12, I believe, is the one that really sounds amazing around Bathurst. First ever championship I've ever seen, first ever race I saw about Bathurst, and it was on board one of those cars. But it's absolutely phenomenal to see this Lexus going around the circuit.
Well, taking a look, you got a Pro-Am Vian Putter taking the fight to the pros. He's in second place overall. And I do think he's going to be aiming for pro come next season. But Vessel Woda is a driver to keep an eye out for, taking the win in last week's race, and now hoping to have that same effect here at Bathurst. He's down in 8th with Anton Lubbers chasing him down. Currently 3rd in class. Björn Boshoff down in 11th will be having a go. But this is not what Bago Krubler wanted to deal with. Brandon Kruger on the front row, and Krubler sitting on the second row with Gerrit Bukes, that is aiming for 3rd place.
Absolutely, this is definitely not what Bago would have liked at all for his championship hopes here. But also, just take a look again at our Pro-Am here, Stephen, and that is what's shocking with the likes of Voda, second currently in his class, with Vian Pata leading out the way. Pata currently in fourth position of the championship, meaning that if he has a good point, he's tied currently actually for third with the likes of Harry Duplessis, but 5 points behind him in fifth is the likes of Johan Verveers. But Vessel Voda, really, if he does go and win this race, or even just finish second, means he will have enough points, I believe, in order to put him into the championship lead, clinching the championship title. This is a fight that goes down right onto the very end. The Pro-Am is not yet finished, and it's one to see to the very end. I'm eager to see how the guys are going to battle it out in these treacherous conditions.
And coming down to the final race of the season, we get to see this more and more often here at Raceface.Pro, where it comes down to who can throw the last punch in a very difficult race, and conditions, being in the rain, trying to figure out what you got to do, how you got to get the pace, where do you need to be. Well, it's going to make life a little bit more difficult. Jared Bakum will be getting alerts from his team saying, listen, if Bago's coming up to you, best mind out of the way. We understand you're racing in the Pro-Am division, which is the silver borders, but if you see that Bago's coming, don't compromise the time here. He will land up in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Blue flags will be something that the drivers will have to be cautious of, but also the faster cars will need to be cautious if they want to overtake a back marker, especially over the mountain part. It's very narrow, very tricky there. If you're brave enough, you can try and stick your nose in there, but be prepared to suffer consequences if you do not choose your moment wisely. As we head into the final 2 minutes of this race, as we jump aboard on Reginald Mutaleni. Absolutely love that little IT joke he has on the car, internal server error, car number 500. I've seen enough of them in my day-to-day job. It's quite funny to see them going around the circuit as he is trying to improve on his laps. I'm currently going around there, sitting in 17th behind the likes of, dropping down to 18th now, the likes of Hansi Mayberg. But yes, looking into the grandstand, we have something that I'm quite shocked with, Stephen, is Antonio Gamble saying, let's go Ruan. I'm so used to seeing them cheer for the likes of Jason Farmer, but it's also good to see them cheering for the other drivers. As take a look at this monster of a Mustang thundering down the front stretch. Oh, just being pulled along. I absolutely love the sound of this car, no matter what. But hard on the brakes, then down the gears, hooking it up as best as possible. Just being careful not to hit that white line in order not to compromise your exit here. And then hard again on, flat down. Quick guts is where it matters. Hard on the brakes, down the gears. Hard on the throttle, exit out. And this is the part where you really have to show that you have gotten the guts to run as close to the wall as possible and flat out through this entire tire section. Might be a small lift in the next little bit here, but you can take it flat out. Quick little lift down and through out, and then you get into what they call skyline. Beautiful scene during the day, monstrous when the sun is coming up, and it's hard on the brakes, down the gears, in order to slow it down for the big dipper that is coming up. Quick right, then left, and again hard down right, fast left, and then it's another right-hander there. Bit on the throttle, but not too much. Don't get too comfortable. Quick on the brakes again, and you have to go down the gears. Hard on the brakes as you go into Forest Elbow, and then you are on the massively long back straight. All the way with slipstream will be a great partner for you as you really try to really gain as much time on the car in front of you and get a good run there. Sean Laredo tops the time already with a 2-minute 5.6, but Sean Collison really putting in some good second sector there, up on his personal best, and then it's down into the chase, flat out through this pit, guts, glory, and you have to brake hard down the gears. You can mount the scope if you're really brave enough. Some choose to avoid it. Then there's a quick flick to the right, and it's a short run into the final corner where the driver will have to spot a brake marker very, very fast. If that brake marker gets taken out, it's difficult to really get it. And that will be a quick lap around Bathurst of a total of 2 minutes and something. If you're brave enough, might even be less than a 2 minute.
Up
but so far,
12th position at
yeah, so far
2:06.8. One of his quicker times, Henry Platt, also 0.6 up on his personal best, and actually looking to be one of the fastest cars out of the circuit. Sean Lerero in first place for our qualifying at the moment. Brand Kruger in second. Henry Platt, the teammate, now looking to put the OG car right on the top of the level here. Continues to give it everything he's got. Down the Conrad straight they go. Krobler puts himself at the 205. It's one Henry Platt hoping he has got enough in the bag to get into first place. It's going to be a long, hard charge to get it right. Aiming to try and move forward into the left-hander, into the right. Stands on the gas, really opening it up a little bit more. Brandon Kruger holds first place with a 2:04. Will he be usurped by his own teammate? Henry Platt puts the power down, comes across the line, and all he was able to get is a third place. But Sean Loureiro going and lighting up next to his own teammate. The likes of Ruben Heineke going to be right on him. Tyler Humphries locks down 4th position.
Yeah, it seems the drivers that were gambling a bit there, trying to stick it right out onto the very end of the session. Got a bit of the best conditions there, almost like a dry line forming up there, but it's going to be quite an interesting race as we take a look at our track map, our track from above here. First corner, House Corner, quite a tricky corner, especially at the start of the race. Then hard into Query Bend, very, very difficult, and then we head into Notorious, the cutting, hard-braking corner there. Then it's a bit of a flat-out section. Who is the bravest on the throttle there? Then into Solomon Park, and then McPhillamy Park, which forms part as the entry into Skyline. Skyline is our bit of a mid of our downhill sector. Then the Big Dipper, quite a difficult one to really master. If you make a mistake, you hit the barrier there. Then as far as the elbow, all the way down onto the Conrad Straight and into the Chase. And then finally we have our final corner is going to be quite a tricky one. And the most notorious one to remember here, Stephen, is that this circuit isn't a racing circuit, one can say. It forms part of public roads, meaning there is oil and gravel and all kinds of garbage pretty much around the track, which makes it very difficult for the cars to really get best performance there. But it's going to be quite an interesting race there as I look into the grandstand. Antonio Gamble putting up a massive sign saying all the Griffin boys, Cameron, hoping Ryan gets his Pro-Am championship. Well, Antonio, I'm going to tell you to scream louder and urge him on as the cars get ready for their start as they all line up onto the grid. Let's give a quick running order through our starting grid in order before the lights go green for racing. Starting on the top of the grid, we have the likes of Brandon Kruger taking pole there, followed closely by the likes of Brandon Kruger.
Yeah, well,
two OG cars.
Just want to say, well, stopping you there, I just sat and worked out the points. Ruben Heineke, Vesselwoda, Harry Duplessis. Do you want to know a very, very scary fact?
I think we all want to know a bit of a scary fact.
Harry Duplessis wins tonight in Pro-Am, he takes the championship. If Vesselwoda wins the race tonight, he takes the championship. If Ruben Heineke wins tonight, he takes the championship. Vian Putter, if he wins tonight, he will take the championship.
It's not done yet.
We are seeing the top 4 of Pro-Am. One win is all they need to get it done here at Bathurst. One win is all that's needed. For Bucas, he needs to be up into the top 5 to clear and get that 3rd place in Pro. But our Pro-Am is down to 4 drivers to get this one right. Don't know about you, but that is absolutely panic mode central. And the one that is leading out the Pro-Ams is Sean Loureiro. That being said, let's quickly run through our grid here for the final time at Raceface.Pro ACC GT3 Season 22 Championship. And it's going to be lights on for the Raceface.Pro GT3 Championship. Over to you, Cap.
Yeah, locking out our front pack is the likes of Brandon Kruger for Omnius Gaming. Right next to me, we've got likes of Bago Grobber, Joseph Ford, with front row lockout there. In 3rd, we've got Henry Platt. Alongside him, we have got Tyler Humphries, followed by in 5th position by the likes of Sean Loureiro. It's a full Ford front pack lockout there, as now we have finally another car lining up in our top 6. We've got Jared Blossom in the Aston Martin there, and then right behind him we've got Ruben Heineke in a Ferrari, alongside another Ferrari of Jason Farmer. In 9th position we've got Johan Verveers, followed by Vian Bitter, and then in 11th position we have Gerrit Beerkes, who needs to really put in a performance in order to get that 3rd place. And in 12th position, we've got Lycan Hines, followed by Vessel Voda and Daniel van der Venter. Another BMWs are currently out here. And then finally, Harry Duplessis, the lone Lexus that I've seen here on track. Alongside him, we've got Jackie Alberts, followed closely behind by the likes of Chris Collison. In 18th position, we've got Tinas Buerta, and in 9th position, we've got Anton Lammers with Gerard Pretorius following close by. In 21st position, we've got Werner Boshoff, and right next to him, Henk Petersen. In 23rd position, we've got Hansi Mayberg, still sticking to his trusty BMW, as I've known him for many years. Alongside, we've got Reginald Mitaleni in the McLaren, and behind them, we've got likes of Leon Swan and Oratile Motsagosile. I hope I said it right there. In 27th position, and locking out our coming at the back of our pack, we've got Rick Thomas, followed by Renier van der Walt in a BMW. So a full front pack of Ford Mustangs and a back row of, well, Ford Mustangs for our front back and BMW lockout in the back road as the cars get ready and around the final corner in Forest Elbow before they have a bit of a long straight, hoping to get the brakes dragged in order to get those tires back up to temperature, as this straight will cool your tires, as you do not really, if you have a long gap between your braking point for the next corner.
It's going to be an absolute chase all the way through, and I've got to say, the pressure is on for every single one of the competitors to just make it work and to really add a little bit more stress into the situation. Brandon Kruger, he needs to beat Gerrit Bucas and score 31 points, which means he has to get a minimum of 5th position in the pro class to be able to capture the bronze in the championship. That's what it's at. Gerrit needs a full outright win, and for Kruger, he needs to get 5th. Anything below from 5th place, if he gets to 6th, that's him out of it. So the pressure mounts. Will he be able to keep Bucas away from 1st and still hold on to get the top running to finish with the bronze? And this is what we're getting out to as the drivers make their way to the line. Lights will be ablaze here at Bathurst for the final time of the Raceface.Pro GT3 Championship here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Brandon Kruger versus Bego Krobler will lock the front row. Lights on, pressure building, and we're getting ready to go with the amazing action as it's light green and we are racing.
Brandon Kruger leading out the way, trying to lock down our inside line, going into turn 1. Quite tricky. Now it's side by side down the long Conrad straight. Ford Mustang really pulling along its weight in order to there, but it's Ford Mustang following upon Ford Mustang. It's like a long train going into Corey Bendia. But look behind, we already see Henry Platt trying to make a move, sniffing around for the insides for the likes of Bego Grobler. This is going to be quite tricky. Henry Platt snuffs it over the inside, pushes Bego Grobler a bit wide. Who is going to be? Henry Platt comes out on top, and now it's getting all more narrower as who is contact.
Oh, Bego in the wall. Bego in the wall. Bego turn round. It is a monster. Jared Pukum, his own teammate, is there as well. This is a nightmare situation for multitude of competitors. What on earth happened? Because that was contact. Bego Krobler had some contact. We're going to try go back and see what happened, but that may have just changed the entire way of this race. So up to our helicam, and did he get tipped around by his own teammate?
I do not know, Stephen. I do believe that Henry Platt was trying to make a move up the inside, going into the cutting, which is very difficult corner to go side by side. It's all about guts going in there and really just keeping to a line there. I think, unfortunately, not really taken out by his teammate, just his teammate being another victim of the accident, but that has dropped him all the way down from 3rd and more damage to the front as he tries to flip it around. It is what we saw going into Corey Bend. Henry Platt trying to make a move, going on that inside line, getting it there, but unfortunately I think it's something that we do not know at this point in time, but the question was, what happened? Henry Platt having to tow back to the pits. Bego Grobler, I believe, carrying some steering damage, not able to make the skyline corner there and heading into the dipper now, not being able to really turn that much to the right-hand side, which is going to be difficult because the next few corners is quite right-hand intensive. But Brandon Kruger was my biggest worry, as he was in the front there, but he dropped down our tower, timing tower there, but that was just as the drivers are heading through the sector there. But the biggest question that we have now at this point in time, Henry Platt in the pits, Bego Grobler all the way at the back. What is going on here? Brandon Kruger running away with this race so far, as he has clear skies behind him with only a 3-second gap behind him with the likes of Tyler Humphries. But take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Farmer fighting it in fourth with the leaders of our Pro-Am class so far, but cutting across the nose hard on the brakes. Mustang really cutting off the nose there of Farmer. Side by side, the two Ferraris backing up Jason Farmer as he's got the Sarko Ferrari right beside him, and now he's going up your drag again. Let's not see another repeat of what happened lap 1 here. Gents, keep it clean into the cutting, hard on the brakes, be brave and see what is going to happen.
Well, just taking a look with Sean Loureiro sporting the damage, Ruan Heineke has got a bit of a defense to deal with Jason Farmer holding everyone back, but Sean Loureiro now needs to keep the hammer down and keep going to not foul up his own teammates and also for a chance of him in the championship. I do want to point out, Bego Grobler in through the pits with major repair work. If he stays where he is, Bego Grobler would lose second place in the championship.
That is definitely not a discussion I would be part of in the stewarding room, Steven, because that is definitely going to be something that will have to be settled, and that is not what would have wanted this championship to end there. But it's quite difficult. But geez, many of these cars really, unfortunately, carrying some significant amount of damage on that front bumper. The gap just being a bit too big between the bonnet and the front bumper, meaning that they will have top end loss and as the aero gets affected. But look at this, Ford versus Ferrari. No, this is not the movie, ladies and gentlemen. This is in our server. On the inside goes the Mustang of Gerard Bierkes, trying to make the move, and he makes it. Hard on the brakes. Here comes an Aston, hoping to get the best of it, hoping to capitalize on the situation, closes right up onto the rear of Fias, hoping to look for a move into the final corner. Will he be able to make it? Hard on the brakes. Nope. Too far back, thinks better of it, hoping for the next corner.
Well, let's quickly go back to a replay. This was Henry Platt. So Tyler Humphries was actually ahead. Tyler came over the nose. Oh, Henry Platt unfortunately had Bego into the side of him. And there is the monster impact. So take a look. Henry Platt was just a casualty in that entire fight, where Tyler Humphries was up on the inside. And a little bit of a ricochet off that. So Tyler Humphries was one of the drivers that landed up, but ultimately poor Henry Platt was stuck into the wall, and then just that little bit of a shot gave us a bit more to the story for the likes of Bego Grobler, and second in the championship, completely compromised at this point.
Steven, I will say this, never write off the likes of Bego Grobler. I've raced against him. He is a great driver and has phenomenal pace, especially in these dry conditions. So the drivers will have to capitalize. Don't know what the weather will be like later on, but Grobler will definitely try to get some points back. And to take a look into Skyline, almost onto the rear, on the rear quarter panel of Fias goes Butter, really trying to maximize the damage that is currently being experienced by Fias into the dipper, as he does know that the next few corners, after these initial corners, is a long straight, meaning that the Aston will have a bit of legs on compared to that Ferrari, especially carrying that damage. But oh boy, the car of Sean Loureiro really carrying a huge amount of damage on that front end. But it looks like Pitter just a bit back. But now let's take a look at the battle between the ponies. We have Gerard Bierkes putting up a fight. Look at the damage that is on that car and how it's affecting the likes of Sean Loureiro. Gerard Bierkes easily getting the move done and into the likes of 5th position, putting his sight next on 4th, which is currently held by Jason Farmer. Next up, I just want to see in that accident though, we had quite a big amount of cars being damaged. I saw a BMW whose front end was completely smashed and didn't look. But take a look at this Ferrari on Ferrari battle here. The likes of Jason Farmer hunting down the Pro-Am leader, which is Ruan Heineke. Both cars not carrying any damage, really hoping to get, well, to hold on to his lead into championship, which currently as it stands seems to be wrapped up in a nice bow. However, it's still an hour and 13 minutes remaining. You never know what is going to happen. Jason Farmer really hunting down that green and white. But oh, look at this. Henk Pieterse into the wall and being towed to the pits. I think the rear might have just stepped out a bit there. And to take a look at our helicam here, into the Skyline. Hard into Skyline, hard on the brakes. Right, left. Did he overcook it here? Going right again.
Dipper.
Oh boy. into Forest Elbow. Oh,
No,
as we lose him a
coming
bit
down
there.
towards the Forest Elbow. Lost it coming out of the dipper. Banging up against the wall. Damaging the front suspension. That was put to tail of the one. That being said, we do have one retirement to the race, and that is Tyler Humphreys, who was part of that earlier collision in the race. Via Putter putting pressure on Jean Verfiers, trying to get past. Remember, Putter is in for the fight for the Pro-Am class. Oh, and Putter sent straight on, missing out at Skyline, and that was pretty much that on the way down. Beautiful save, a little bit of a scrape, and definitely going and needing a change of shorts after it, but what a run. But Johan Verfiers, who's 5th in the championship, wasn't backing down from the fight.
No, absolutely not. A bit of a side-by-side going into the likes of Skyline, which is either brave and very gutsy, but it didn't pan out for the likes of Putter. But Chris Collison really carrying some damage. But here we have the likes of a Mercedes really trying to push that car along. The Merc previously quite strong around this track also, but right behind them, it's another Ford. It looks like the Ford really being a favorable car this season. It's a massive train. It's Merc. It's Merc, Ford, McLaren, and BMW. Ooh, quite an interesting pack of cars here. Front engine and a mid-engine car really putting the fight there together.
Well, Vesselwoda just leading up that pack will be keeping a close eye. Sean Larrera into the pits for a bit of repair work. Werner Buschhoff is pushing as hard as he can. He's got Anton Lummers and Hansi Myberg, who's actually returned after a 70th birthday party. 70 years. So, happy birthday to the Myberg family. A 70th birthday, might I add. Oh, never mind. As we said that. Sorry, Hansi.
Commentators curse, and luckily it's not me this time. It is the likes of Stephen Koenig. But oh boy, it's always good to see Hansi in that BMW and faithful to his Mustang BMW all the way to the very end. But that has allowed the likes of Leon Swan to get up on the inside and get past the likes of Hansi Myberg there. Closely behind them, we have the likes of Pretorius in the Ford Mustang, really hoping to get that position back. But look at that, Stephen. Just look a bit there at the back. Someone pointed out in the virtual grandstand, Bego Grobler has clawed his way back from the pits into 23rd, not giving up the ghost just yet, and hoping to gain more positions, hoping to change his strategy in order to really maximize the amount of points that he can gain in this championship so far.
Well, he needs a win to make it work. Gerard Pretorius gets on the inside of Hansi Myberg and made a very clean pass on the way through. So cars that have gone through the pits, Sean Larrera returning to the circuit after a bit of damage, Terry Duplessis, Daniel Fadafenta, Bego Krobler, Jared Bakum, Oriete Motsahile, whoa, just completely losing out at the top of the hill, and Henry Platt rounding out in 26th. 2 retirements in this race, however, as drivers continue on battling around these very difficult conditions. Now, we went from qualifying in the rain to 21 degrees out on track at current. We have gone and seen it flip, flop, and change all over with the weather conditions. And honestly, I've got to say, we are starting to enjoy the land of Down Under of how difficult it is to plan, to get yourself sorted. Chris Collison trying to go break a little bit later. Vesselwoda onto the back of them as Vian Putter dives into the pits to get the first pit stop out of the way. And doesn't want to fall out too low to Sean Larrero. He's going to be the marker for everyone to see how the pit stops are going to work out. Jackie Alberts fighting against likes of Johan Verfiers. Now, very interesting enough, a father-son duo, the Verfiers family, races in LMU and races in ACC, with Johan Verfiers, the younger, going and fighting out against Jackie Alberts, who is constantly putting pressure on him, looking for anyone to get by. The racing sales is not holding back.
The likes of the Verfiers, one of them moving through the ranks through our previous edition of Road to Pro that was hosted through the likes of Raceface.Pro here on ACC, and it was absolutely great to see such a talented driver moving up and catching the eye of some of our the bigger teams here. But let's take a look. He's trying to make a move there. Thinks better of it. Oh, pushes the likes of Verfiers. Jackie Albert saying, haha, gotta keep your bros a little bit busy, but that has allowed the likes of Haynes to get very, very close. Luke and Haynes hoping to get 2 positions for the price of 1 if these two tangle up, forcing them into the wall. Now the likes of Verfiers need to remember that the likes of Albert and Haynes are both teammates, both part of the Racing Snails team, meaning that these two can work together in order to get the best of him in any shape of the corners. But also, Fierce his car is carrying damage on the front end, which is slowing down. As we see the Mustang, the beast that it is, in a straight line, just getting pulled on. Goodbye Ferrari, I'm taking that position, and there we go. Jackie Albert's moving into 6th place, and Jean Faviers trying to fight back, but not being able to, dropping down into 7th. But take a look, it's Mustang on Mustang battle here, going between the likes of Werner Boshoff and Chris Collison. But the the Stinger's car versus the likes of this orange Mustang. Who will be the best, we'll see, but just now Boshoff putting a bit of a gap between the two of them.
It's incredible stuff, and as it all starts to unravel here at the beautiful circuit of Bathurst, and drivers trying to figure out what's going to be the best opportunity, I'm starting to wonder. The Bago problem is sitting on 262 points, where Garrett Bukes is sitting on 209. Now, if he gets a win here, he'll get 50 points. That will bring him up to 259 points. Not enough to take Bago off that 2nd place, but that's with a win, where the likes of Brandon Kruger has a chance to take 3rd. So the fight is Garrett Bukes and Brandon Kruger. If Brandon beats Garrett, he will take the likes of 3rd place away from Fleming Bauer and Garrett Bukes. So the pressure starts to come down. And while talking about pressure, Cam, my eyes don't deceive me, the umbrellas are pulling out. We got a little bit of rain at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, this weather is definitely going to make it a lot difficult for these drivers, and I think the likes of Faviers is really hoping that the rain comes sooner than later, as we saw in the previous lap losing a position to the likes of Albers. But look closer behind him, we've got Haynes, the car really not liking it, and just hoping that rain comes sooner so he can dive into the pits, get some of that damage fixed, and then head back out, because he's really one of the braver drivers sticking out with these damage. I think one of the only other drivers from our top 10 who is currently still running relatively quick in the top with those damage there. But it's quite Bathurst is, I wanted to say previously, is we had a wet qualifying. Drivers who have phenomenal pace in dry is now all the way at the back, and drivers who are normally fast in the wet are now at the front. With a dry setup, with a dry race, it's going to be an all mosh pit of whatever's going on. But you see the wipers on all the cars as you try to clear some of that water from the windscreen in order to see the best out of the car. But the Burke really leading the way for the McLaren there in hoping to get the best out of them. But the McLaren, hard on the brakes. The best braking of the McLaren happens at the end of its brakes, but not the best that it can do, as the Merc just sneaks it up, ties it up, and gets past him again. But now that Merc has got 2 McLarens for company right behind him, the likes of Lammers and Mitteleni, really hoping to get the best of this Merc, but the Merc really proving the grunt he has up the mountain. But let's not forget the likes of Leon Swan, hoping to get and capitalize on any mistake these guys are making, as well as Gerard Pretorius of the Griffin Sim Racing team, hoping to capitalize on anything that happens as he runs a bit wide, pulls it back, rear steps a bit out. But let's take a look back at our battle here, currently happening between the likes of Haynes and Johan Faviers.
And it was interesting to see Lucan had a lot of pace in a straight line. That just tells the damage that Johan's got on the Ferrari, killing off major amounts of top end there. And I gotta say, it's turning into a bit of a difficult race for him, and getting a little bit punished for doing so, especially as the conditions are changing. He is now facing that loss of grip that's throwing him down the order.
That's also something, the damage might be playing a bit of a factor there, Stephen, but how many of these cars are currently running a wet weather setup, being optimized for the wet? I know most drivers would much rather opt for a hybrid, compromise some things in the dry, compromise some things in the wet, in order to get the best of both worlds out of those cars and get the best possible position. But for Fierce really struggling there, I think might be diving into the pits around this time in order to get those wet weather tires slapped on, in order to really and work on some of the damage and hoping not to lose too much position and time to his closest competitors. But let's take a look here at this four-way fight again. Anton Lammers really hunting down that McLaren, that Mercedes up there in front, but the McLaren really has quite a good top end speed here. But we are using the LFM bob that is being crafted and changed as the sim gets updated, but hard on the brakes, well, not brakes just yet. Anton Lammers really optimizing that drag that he has on the car, and McLaren very low to the ground, hard on the brakes, not being able to get alongside this time. But the likes of Mitteleni just sitting at the back, hoping to capitalize on this, but all the work is being undone here for Antonamus as that Mercedes of Voda just keeps on pulling away. But these cars are absolutely phenomenal. A brilliant car, low to the ground, fast pace. I see a 2:05 from the McLaren. They're definitely getting wetter. Cars definitely going to be struggling for grip. These lap times will be falling a lot more as the track gets wetter.
Now it's getting into a bit of a difficult stage for a lot of these drivers, and we can see Gerald Pretorius is soaking up the pressure at the moment of the rain and immediately taking the advantage, going on the attack onto the back of Leon Swan. Looks for the inside line on the climb up the hill, but not willing to go too late onto the brakes. Everyone moving their brake markers back roughly 5 meters, not wanting to get caught out. Reginald Mutaleni is a very good case in point of it. Rather moves back a little bit, not as comfortable. Leon Swan going out a little bit wide, just not able to slow the car fast enough. Gerald Pretorius trying to keep the power, and you can see the rear snapping underneath him. A lot of drivers in the dry would go for a low aero setup for the Conrad Straight versus drivers with more aero for the tighter corners at the top. This is something that's now been flipped on its head for a lot of these drivers, having to think about the weather conditions. Do you want to go and have a little bit more aero pushing you down and being able to go? Well, Anton Lubbers, however, misses his corner, and suddenly Reginald Mutaleni gets the pass on the way through. But back up through the top of the field is Brandon Kruger and Tyler Humphreys. Apologies, a little bit earlier I said he was out of the race. He's not. He's still going. He's in second place with Jason Farmer running in third. Ruud Heidecker in fourth and leading out the Pro-Ams. Now, if Ruud Heidecker gets the win here tonight, he takes the championship for Pro-Am. So all the pressure comes on to move forward right the way through. For Gerrit Bukes, he is currently lying in 5th place and doing everything he can to fight it out till the very end.
Absolutely, Beck is really trying to capitalize as much of the points he can make in order to gain positions there. But Ruud Heidecker really putting on quite a class act here in these conditions. His closest competitor in the championship the championship competitor all the way down in 11th. Really hoping to make up some points is the Mercedes of Voda. But so far it does not seem to be counting in the favor of that Mercedes. Heidecker really putting on a phenomenal show. But we did speak about earlier, Stephen, regarding the likes of the setups. You want a low setup for the likes of for the dry temps and for the corners. You want to have a bit of a high one. But for the wet, I would, for me personally, I would say opt for a bit of a medium one in order to capitalize really on both and not have the car really step out and get the best out of both worlds. As we head into the final hour of this race so far, it has been quite a battle for all the cars as Anton Lammers heads into the pits. I think that accident that we saw earlier was one that was caught up by the dry tires and unfortunately deciding, listen, I'm struggling with this car. I'm heading into the pits to get those wet weather tires on. And Bego Grobler also getting the last stop done, I believe, for his time. And hopefully it stays wet until the very, very end of this race. It's all to see and what is going to happen here.
Just take a look at Bego's car. That looks a very, very second-hand Mustang as he pulls in. Number 15, looking a little bit broken, beaten, and battered. Let's quickly take a look. This is down the Conrad Straight. So the incident happened well before then, that he ended up smashing the entire front of the car. This is Kerry Duplessis. Looks on the inside with the Lexus. Oh, my heavens, on the Conrad Straight. A little bit of a clip between the two. And Bego Grobler into the wall. Oh man, that's a nightmare of a race for the number 15. And not how you want your race to be going.
No, absolutely not. It's gone from bad to worse for the Team Wolf car of the likes of Bego Grobler. But let's see, really carrying some damage from that early accident there. I did see a yellow flag earlier. Wasn't sure who the yellow flag was for, but Bego just lifting off there a bit in order to let his, I believe, his teammate through in the Aston, which also exposed them. But we all know the Lexus has quite a lot of pace on the straights also, a car that has been neglected quite a lot. But take a look at this. Chris Collison getting closely alongside the likes of Vessel Voda.
The Kramadoulis
Vessel Voda actually
holding the position, and Chris Collison doing everything he could to just try and get the run, but ultimately it's the long nose of the Mercedes that's able to eke on by as Chris Collison late on the brakes going and compromising his corner exit.
Question is, I have Steven, is how many of these drivers are currently running wet tires directly from the start, and how many of them are braving out these conditions in these dry tires? I mean, it's got to be quite tricky for these slicks. Don't know what the track state is currently at this point in time, but it is definitely going to be quite difficult for these drivers in order to do it. It seems like the track temp there is about 20.
20
So
degrees track temperature, 15 degrees air temperature, so it's getting a bit cold out there, and drivers are starting to feel it as well. Now, Cam, we talk about air temperature and what does that mean for your setups, and we always wonder the difference between a track temperature, that's obviously where the tires are connected, but what does the air temperature do to these cars?
Track temperature, from what I normally understand, I'm not that big brain understanding. I just arrive and drive mostly. When I get to setups, my team normally builds it, or I give my feedback to my team engineer, which currently is also my co-commentator. Brilliant engineer, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But the air temp, but it normally affects is the power that gets produced by the engine, I believe. The cooler it is, the more the engine performs. It's cool air getting sucked in more, that just performs a bit better there. As when it's warmer, the car is not performing at its best there. As you see the likes of Johan Verveers dropping into the pits to get that stop time, but also the likes of Boshoff and Voda. Many of our cars are jumping into the pits, and pretty much our top 10. No, only one not popping into the pits is Reginald Mtseleni in the 500 car, the internal server error. There are hope for Reginald's sake that he is not currently experiencing internal server error, because that will, if he is on dry tires, it's going to be quite a risky move in order to get out there, especially if it is going to continue raining there. But track temp is what mostly affects the tires, how you want to optimize them. The tires work in a certain range of the PSI to get the best performance out of the tires. As we look at Renier van der Walt with a pretty smashed up front end on that BMW, might have connected a wall at one point, into the pits, late move. Oh boy, Aston Martin getting close here.
This is actually might have been contact between himself and Bego Krobler at the end of the Conrad Straight. So going down, Bego goes to the inside, and contact between the two. And that just got him a little bit upset, but the damage to the car had to be well before that for the number 79.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but take a look at pit lane. Busy as ever. Cars scrambling to get into the pit box. Teams running around to get the tires done, get any body part that is damaged, replace the hoods, replace the bonnets, hoping the drivers really hit their mark as they have a very small window in order to get the car sorted. But look at this, our leader running around the circuit, no competition in sight. Closest one is the likes of Reginald Mtseleni in second place. Quite a bit of someone for me who's been away from ACC for quite some time, a driver from the team, from Noob Nation, Reginald Mtseleni, really putting on a phenomenal show, sticking out, the only one still in our top 10 or in our field who still needs to do 2 pit stops, and I do believe that he will be pitting quite shortly. But Brandon Kruger really putting on a great show, making up for a disappointing race last night in our LMU Championship, hoping to get some good, or ending on a good note here tonight, and getting a good handful of points in order to bring him closer to that championship podium.
Now it's going to be a lightning case at the moment. He will score the full points of 50 points, that with Gerrit Buick sitting on a 209 in the championship and lying down in currently 4th. A 255 is to be beaten in the points. Let's see what he's going to get. 4th place is 35 points, a little bit onto the calculator, and he will lose. Gerrit Buick, if he remains in 4th and Kruger is in 1st place, he loses out the championship. Kruger will usurp and get into that 3rd place.
This is what the teams will be telling their drivers if they have someone with a calculator on it, but while calculating championship points. Even though I wouldn't say don't tell it to a driver, I threw away a championship like that by thinking, I need to be in this position in order to score the maximum points at Bathurst in a Formula 4. Didn't end well for me. But as you take a look at Daniel van der Venter there leading the pack, but look at this, Renier van der Walt, unfortunately a drive-through, speeding in the pit lane there and getting slapped on the wrist by the steward saying, listen, you entered the pits in an unsafe manner, carrying too much speed and putting the pit crews in danger. You will have to do a drive-through, which isn't as much, but you do lose quite a bit of time. I believe you lose around the track such as Bathurst, you lose about sector 1, maybe sector 2.5 a bit there, which is quite a bit as you crawl around the circuit there. But a yellow flag popped up there. Wonder who collected the ball there, but Reginald Mutilini in the pits, as well as Pitta there. Mutilini just coming out of the pits in the back of the shot there, as Werder Boshoff leading this pack again. I think having usurped the likes of Voda as well as Haynes. A good stop there for him as he goes there, but Pitta in the pits, getting his stop done. Our leader when it comes to pit stops done, and now running to the very end on the tire set he has, and hopefully he has enough fuel.
Okay, well, I just did a bit of math here to work out. If Brandon Kruger remains in first place, he takes third in the championship. Even if Karabukas gets into second, he will miss out the championship by 3 points. So for Brandon Kruger at current, something's got to go wrong. They got to get him off that top of that first place, get him into second, get him into third, bring him down the order. That's the only way that Karabukas will be able to hold that third place in the championship. But as it stands, Brandon Kruger will be taking home the bronze. Unfortunately, it's going to be at the loss of Fleming Bauer.
Unfortunately, this is what is happening. Having to play smart throughout the championship, watching the penalty points accruing on your license. You have to be cautious in terms of what you're doing in order to avoid getting penalized by our Raceface.Pro stewards here. But just take a look at this. Hansi Mayberg, really a car that is fighting up the order there, closing down the likes of Anton Lammers. But the rain is getting more here. It's just pouring down our drivers, and this is where the drivers will now, well, we will see which of these cars are running more of a hybrid or a wet weather focused setup in order to capitalize on this. It has been a debate throughout the paddock this entire week of what will be the weather conditions, what will the weather forecast sometimes predicted a bit of a monsoon, and sometimes it will be sunshine, but it looks like some teams have decided for a bit of a wet one in order to capitalize on the rain that will be falling out here tonight.
It's all changing up as drivers figure out. Leon Swan look to the inside of Reginald Mutilini and fishtailing on the way through into Hell's Corner and back onto the gas. But Vian Putter leads out those that have completed all their pit stops. He's the marker to go for in this race.
Yeah, but only has one mission now, and that is to see it to the very, very end, as he does not want to go through the pits once again in order to change tires or top up in any shape or form of fuel. That's why I'm saying, hoping that he has enough fuel in order to get him to the end, and hopefully does not have to fuel safe. But in conditions such as this, where it is wet, where the drivers will be lifting a bit earlier and braking also a bit earlier, what will happen is they will be using a lot less fuel and will later count up to saving 1 or 2 more laps. So if the drivers were brave enough and short fueled, they might see it to the very end and not having to go and worry about that. But take a look, Rick Thomas of the Pandacity Infiltrate team, right behind the likes of Sean Loureiro. Sean Loureiro starting in third, or in I believe in fifth of our race tonight. Unfortunately, getting mixed up in quite a nasty accident on lap 1, going after Corey Bender into the cutting, and now having to fight his way back to be in the front pack there. Was leading out our Pro-Am class, but now all the way down in 18th overall, really hoping to maximize. But it's going to be quite a difficult, tricky one there. But luckily, I don't see massive puddles forming just here on the exit there. But drivers having to be very cautious not to clip that exit there before entering into Skyline. Vessel Voda really trying to put the hammer down and close the gap on that Ford. But the Ford is known to be quite the strongest car out during this championship, with just grunting along the straights, having quite an immense amount of top end speed, and really just pulling away from any of his closest competitors after getting past them.
Well,
but that seems to be...
Fam, I'm going to toss another thing into the whole pot of things. Kerry Duplessis, who is a bit further down the order, lying in 20th position and way out from the top 3 in our Pro-Am class. He came in tied in points to the likes of Viat Putter. Both sitting on 210, but Viat Putter, if he beats out Kerry Duplessis, he takes the championship. He takes 3rd place in the championship, and we'll be happy about that. If Viat Putter gets further up into the top 3, gets ahead of Vessel Woda, he has a chance to actually beat Vessel Woda and move into 2nd of the championship.
Yeah, this championship is definitely not wrapped up in any shape or form for this Pro-Am, guys, and they will definitely be battling it right until the very, very minute. And to take a look at the likes of Leon Swan in that Aston and really hunting down the car 500 internal server error of Reginald Mitteleni, hoping to capitalize it, but right in front of them we've got Bossman himself, Hansi Mayberg, in the trusty BMW, keeping down any moves there, but now it's all about just being brave, watching those curbs and not losing control of the car, especially through this little sector. In dries, it's flat out. In wet, you want to lift at some points, but especially look at how close they get to those walls and really hoping not to clip that inside corner of the curbing, runs a bit onto that corner, open it up hard on the brakes, down the gears, into second, and normally you want to go into first here, but some dude like to stick it into second and then first into second. Just use engine brake to slow the car down on the throttle, left, right, hard on the brakes into elbow in order to slow the car down for a very nasty tight turn there. Then it's onto the back straight once again. Aston versus McLaren. Who will have the best drive? Who has gotten the best drive out of Forest Elbow? Swan really putting the pressure on Mitteleni. 0.4 seconds back at the last timing line, hoping to get the best. And again, closing, pulled a bit of a gap has Mitteleni. No, Mitteleni has not been pulled the gap. Swan has closed the gap. Hansi Mayberg has pulled the gap with the likes of Mitteleni, as that gap has gone from 0.4 to 0.6. But Swan closing down and gaining about a tenth there for the likes of Mitteleni down the back straight.
Incredible stuff. Leon Swan continuing to hold the pressure on as we go. Tyler Humphries getting a little bit of a yellow flag at the top of the hill, being a little bit too slow. So it tells me the Mustang not quite working in his favour. Jason Farmer out in third place, continues his drive. But Ruud Heineke at current sits behind Mago Krobler and will be saying, blue flags, I'm coming through and I've got a championship to win. And all that he needs to do is secure first place. He needs to keep ahead of Vessel Oda and Harry Duplessis to be able to call himself the Raceface.Pro Season 22 Pro-Am Champion.
There's definitely going to be something else, but something for our fans in the grandstand is that we do not follow the normal blue flag rules that are being shown that we all know from the F1. We only follow the one. It's more like be predictable. You don't have to immediately brake in order to let them through in the next few corners. Just keep your line, and if you can, help facilitate the pass in order to not prevent others from being held up. But look at this. Swan being all over the back of that McLaren, but look who's behind him. Is that the likes car number 5?
No, that is Henry Platt that's actually trapped behind them. He is way off the pace from these two, and at current is just fishtailing to try and figure out where he can get the pass done.
Now, this is also where Henry Platt has to be very, very smart when he makes his move, because you do not want to get involved in any other battle here, as it is not his fight, even though he does have some pace. But now also the likes of Swan and Mitteleni will be smart and saying, listen, I'm focusing on the car in front of me, the car behind is faster. Is it just best to rather let him through and let him mess up the car in front of me, or fight him and keep him behind me and hope that I can get past the car in front of me for position and then pull that gap? It's all about questions being asked, but the Aston really putting on quite a show, I believe, running a better setup compared to the likes of Mitteleni. Mitteleni covering down that inside line into the kink. Mitteleni goes out wide, hard on the brakes, not being able to make the move is the likes of Swan, and there's a right, left, and then it's again the run into the final corner. Swan messing up his entire sector at the chase and not being able to make it. But Gerard Pretorius really hunting down. Well, actually not really hunting down. He's just cruising here. But who's that? I see Aston Martin in front of him. I wonder if Pitter has gotten past the likes of Gerard Pretorius and has taken 16th on overall standings. Moves him up one position, right behind the likes of Mitteleni. But Stephen, hold up 1 second. Can I ask our camera crew, please switch back to car number 500. It looks like Mitteleni has made a massive mistake and has clipped the wall. Front damage on the nose. That has led through the likes of Swan and allowing him to hunt down the likes of Hansi Mayberg. Oh, just fishtailing on the curb. He was last time I checked.
Corner, late on the anchors. Did he overcook it? Yes, he did by miles.
Oh,
and
that is gone.
Unfortunately, is how you start straightening the nose of the McLaren, so it doesn't look so squashed.
Okay, why do we hate the McLaren so much, Stephen? This is the debate me and you're going to continuously have, but definitely not something, because that steering is definitely going to be compromised, and because of where it happened, it's going to be one ride. He has to do a full lap before going into the pits. Steering going to be very, very light when he has to go around here, and just see how he is wrestling the car with our camera on board. Almost loses it into that section. Great catch there by the likes of Mitteleni, and now he has to nurse this car around, shifting through the gears, not wanting to really hit the brakes harder than necessary in order to avoid from letting it spin out. I mean, really catching, but look behind him. Pitter already behind Mitteleni, hunting down another position for Pitter around the outside into Forest Elbow. Brave move, side by side. Gonna have to better exit, and also a better aero compared to the damage-stricken McLaren that is the car 500, but right behind him, Harold Pretorius in the Mustang, going to be past this McLaren very, very soon. The two cars that I would say is quite fast on the circuit, but the Mustang making easy work of that McLaren, not putting up much of a fight. Moving both the likes of Pitter and Pretorius up into 15th and 16th, and Mitteleni chopping down the pack.
Oh man, Mitteleni was on such a good drive, and unfortunately all went south. Anton Lubbers into the pits for his final pit stop of the race, as there's 42 minutes to go and left of this incredible action for the final round of the Raceface.Pro. Round 8 here at the beautiful circuit of Bathurst for season 22. Leading out top of the charts, Brandon Kruger with Tyler Humphries in second. Jason Farmer runs in third, and fourth place, Kurt Bukes with fifth place of our pros. Lying at 14th is Chris Collison, lying at 13th. So he's going to be quite happy. That is the top 5 of the pros. Taking a look at the Pro-Ams, however. First place is Ruud Heineke with Jackie Albert closely behind, with Jean Verveers and Lucan Haynes a little bit further back. Is your top 4. And Werner Buschhoff, who has been on a bit of a charge of late, is in 5th of the Pro-Ams. It's turning into a wild one, Cam. We're starting to see more and more of these drivers having to push themselves a little bit more up the road, having to really dial it in, get that little bit more pace underneath it. But the track is cooling down. It's down to 18 degrees. The rain is just coming down in cats and dogs and anything else you would like to think of. Even the ducks have decided to pull out their umbrellas and put their floaties on.
Actually, this weather has gone from not really sunny skies, but overcast to absolutely pouring down. As you see, some rooster tails started being formed here as the cars are breaking their way through the final corner, but that also shows again that the weather is there, and the crash that was experienced by Mitteleni, who's currently in the pits hoping to get that fixed. The car just locking up and aquaplaning straight into the wall. But look at this, Jackie Albers putting the pressure on the likes of our Pro-Am Championship leader Ron Heineke, less than a second behind of Heineke, hoping down. Now, no matter where Heineke finishes, as long as he's in front of Voda, he will be walking away with our championship. But he's hoping to stay in front and lead the pack instead of dropping down. But Voda in the pits, hoping to get his final pit stop done and dusted, as we see as he comes past our commentary box right here in the pit lane there. But Heineke really weighing up his options of, do I let through the likes of Albert or do I keep in front, hoping to actually keep in front, as you never know what will be happening early on in the race. You might have a bit of a spin, losing some time and bring your rival closer. If you do let them past and you spin again, it will be even more closer and might even lose you the championship at the very end there. But these two are pretty much our closest battle so far on circuit, the only ones within 1 second of one another as they run right up close to the wall. Albert's getting very friendly with that wall, fishtailing all around, hoping to get the best, but unfortunately pushing the car to its limit and dialing it back a bit now. That gap opening up past 1 second, I can promise you that, in order to just regain control of the car, settle the heartbeat, and just refocus on what is going to happen in the final 40 minutes of this race, as well as this championship.
Well, let's talk about this. Most gains and most losses. If you had to take a look at the grid at the moment, who do you feel is currently having the top of the pack of the most positions gained in this race?
Ooh, Steven, that will be quite a difficult one, but I would say that might have been Hansi Myburg, starting from our second last, not Hansi Myburg, interesting, Lucan Haynes.
Leon Swan, 15
Wow.
positions from the start. Started in 25th and now lies 10th in the entirety of the field. Biggest loss, however, goes to Bego Krobler. Actually not. Bego Krobler is 20. The biggest loss goes to Henry Platt, 21 positions down since the start of the race. We did see that earlier impact. He was third, unfortunately became a passenger in the entire crash heading up the hill. That being said, taking a look over to our virtual grandstands, we do see Rick Thomas a little bit slow, losing out a bit of time. Vessel Woda gets on by, but our virtual grandstands out there, we've got Werner Skuman, who comes off racing the iRacing GT3s, had a bit of fun out there, but also we have the Digital Autosports of Ukraine coming and joining us here in the beautiful circuit of Bathurst. Fantastic to have you guys here. A big shout out to them as well. Fiat Butter gets past Hansi Myberg and continues on the drive, as Hansi Myberg still has to do one more stop in this race. We see a multitude of different ideas in terms of pit stops. Some were forced from earlier incidents, others have been just choosing to push that little bit more into the race.
Yeah, and everybody has their own little strategy and what has worked best for them, as they've done multiple laps and run multiple race simulations throughout the week through their computers and everything that they can back at their team headquarters. But most common strategy that we had back when I was still racing in this championship was you pit as soon as a pit window opens. So that means lap one as soon as you can into the pits, get one stop done, run to midway through the race, and then pit again. But take a look, as we see Anton Lammers making a move on the like of Thomas there. Thomas not having the time of his life there and really struggling for the tenacity to infiltrate BMW M4, not being able to really make a move there. But another strategy that most drivers are really following was always pit at midway mark and then pit right again at the very, very end. A common strategy was employed by our top teams back then that are still being used by some of our teams, I believe, as we see the likes of our front runners doing the exact same thing. But take a look, Sean Loureiro fighting his way back up the pack, right behind the likes of the big boss man himself, Hansi Myberg, in the BMW of 526. Oh, don't go side by side through there, gentlemen. We saw in real life what happened there when someone tries to go side by side. It didn't end well for that Mercedes. But here we have two front engine cars, Mustang versus BMW. It is the Americans versus the German manufacturer. Who will have the best out here? Who will have the best drive? I put my money on the Mustang because the Mustang has proven to be quite fast in this back straight, going down into the final kink. But now side by side onto the grass, all around, getting squeezed a bit.
Was stopping that pass from happening. Loureiro not too happy about it. Goes around the outside as Hansi just comes off the gas a little bit, allows him to take the racing line all the way through. I wonder if Hansi was trying to assist that pass to happen, and unfortunately Sean Loureiro read the room and unfortunately got it wrong, compromising him some time. Was a little bit frustrated, but it does look like Hansi gave him the ideal racing line, saying go for it, I'm going to hold on to offline and allow you to get past. Chris Collison onto the back of Leon Swan as they charge on in this race. Chris Collison wanting to be in that top 10 overall, fighting it out against some of the pro-ams. I've got to say, really, really impressive for our pro-ams throughout this race, have been on top-notch form.
Yeah, quite shocking. Well, not shocking really, but quite amazing to see our Pro-Am cars really sticking it into that top 10. Normally, it was always just a lockdown of our Pro cars in a past season, but really, this just shows the amount of skill, how the skill level has increased by the drivers throughout the entire grid, and really being able to... Bit of a slide from Swan, catching it beautifully there, but really just shows the skill level increasing for all our drivers as they fight to get into that top class that is our pro class. But Chris Collison really putting up quite a good fight, trying to hunt down that little Aston Martin in front of him. Not the newest edition of the Aston, but rather the old edition compared to the more new, modern Ford Mustang, based, I believe, on the Ford Mustang Dark Horse, the car, the road-going car. And absolutely, it looks like a squinting Leon Swan going but deep and wide, compromising his exit a bit there, but also will benefit him a bit at the very, very end, as he will have a bit of a longer run in order to gain a bit more speed. But the Mustang hunting down, closing, as you take a look at Rick Thomas, just letting through the likes of, I believe that was Jason Farmer. Coming out of the pits is the like of Thomas there, but Collison really using the power of the Mustang to his advantage, closing the gap there. Oh, side by side, cuts off the nose, is Swan cutting off, saying, listen, I want to stay in this top 10. I will fight you tooth and nail for this. You better earn it before you can even get close to it. But hard on the brakes in order to really get it. But turn around, Ruan Henneke, that is the championship Pro-Am leader. spinning around, gonna be, no, hold the brakes, be careful of the moment you want to chase a move. Oh, gotta see people just flying past him as he drops from the lead, but this brings the likes of Voda very, very close, and Pitter also finally getting it rolling. Very great job for him not to get the car beached on that curb, as it is quite easy to get it beached there. Might have just lost it. I wonder what happened with the likes of Ronanica going into Quarry Bend.
Well, let's take a look at what happened. Let's go to Tim in the helicam to give us a bit of a sight here, because this has just changed the entire landscape of the Pro-Am field. As we do see Ruin Heineke gets in behind the trees, the rear just steps out, clips a curb, try to save it, spun round the wrong way, and was staring down into turn 1, which is completely blind. Now, this has changed the entire ball game, because remember, he has to beat Vessel Oda. He has to beat Kerry Duplessis and Vian Putter. Those are the 3 cars that are crucial to be ahead of. And at the moment, Vessel Oda is going to be breathing down his neck along with Vian Putter and Kerry Duplessis. Jackie Albert's snatching that 50 points away from him. Jean Verveers has snatched the 43 points away from him. Lucan Haynes has done the same. Werner Buschhoff, Ruin Heineke is in a world of hurt right now as he tries to keep ahead of Vessel Oda.
Definitely not what Heineke would have really wanted there, but lost it on his own too early on the throttle and getting turned around. But really great work from him, not hitting the wall there, holding the brakes and just trying to get the car around as fast as possible, but also not getting it beached onto that inside curbing. But you can see a bit of where the cars have been running throughout this wet weather and where a line has been forming, but this is still not being classified as wet weather. Into the pits comes Ron Heineke saying, listen, these tires are getting bit over the point of being used, because I wouldn't say it's now the time in order to go and change, just do a splash to see it to the very end, put on the tires, get it done and dusted, and go on from there. Time you lose for putting that on, it's time you gain on a fresh set of tires. But here comes Pitter past the likes of Collison. I wonder why he has decided to do that. I mean, they're both fighting for position, but not in the same championship, and has decided rather, I'm going to let you through. No championship points are being gained by any one of them with that switch. But Pitter really saying that, because the previous one we saw the likes of Collison ahead of this Aston Martin, and now again behind the Aston Martin. Quite an interesting tactic being employed by these two, as we see Swan diving into the pits. But I do believe Leon Swan has lost that at one point, because he's now behind these two and is only now into the pits, and I did not register him earlier as being into the pits.
Okay, so big one here. Vessel Oda needs to win this race. Vessel Oda needs that full 50 points. But the pressure comes in, as we do see a 79. That's Raiden for the Volt, who's lost it at the top of Skyline. We'll get back to that, but let's take a look. What happened to Van der Walt? Oh man, he had damage and was just sliding up against the walls over and over. Steering bent beyond repair and just not able to bring it back. Definitely slammed it further down and ultimately stopping it to get towed back to the pits. But back onto the thing. If the likes of our leader of the championship of Heineke is able to get 5th and stay 5th in class, okay? Vessel Oda can get 1st place but will not win the championship. If Heineke is below 5th, that's it. Championship done. So what he needs to focus on now is staying ahead of Vessel Oda, and needs to ensure that this Mercedes does not get 1st. If he gets 1st, that's Heineke's job completely out of the water and will change up the entire championship. Oda needs a win to be able to beat out Heineke.
Let's take a look at that overall standing there. There are 5 seconds adrift. I can almost see them just as Heineke leaves the shot. Vessel Voda pops into the shot. And he knows his target. He sees his target. Both of them have completed their stops. This will be a drag race straight to the very, very end between these two. Who's able to keep it out of the wall? Who's able to navigate any traffic that's in front of them that's lapped? Who's able to manage the traffic coming up to lap them themselves? It's all about being able to manage the best and now. But between them is a green Mustang with the likes, I do not know, I believe that might be Henry Platt, or it can also be our race leader with the likes of Brandon Kruger, who's been probably cruising around just wondering where has everybody gone. But these two is the championship battle for us to watch, really, in order to see who is going to be our Pro-Am championship winner, and all cards are now to play for, really. Who's going to win? Who's in the background? Anton Lammers losing it and spinning out of turn 1 directly into the wall.
That is extreme amount of pain. Harry Duplessis says thank you very much on that one. Anton Lammers losing a bit of time. Leon Swan will be the next to go and take the position away from him. But this is all unfolding, folks. 27 minutes to go. Championships are at the line here. It's all coming adrift. It's all coming unglued at the seams. And at the moment, we are in for a race of note. Brandon Kruger, however, by taking a win here tonight, will secure third place. And unfortunately for Gerrit Bukes, who is in fourth, he will be losing out that third place right on the final race. It will be snatched away at him. And I mean, that is a gutting blow just to think about.
Yes, absolutely, Stephen, and this is not even a script that Netflix Drive to Survive will be able to write in this condition. I mean, going in saying, awesome, the guy in front of me has gotten penalized, I'm able to capitalize on that, and then Bathurst comes and it pours, it traumatizes the drivers. It is actually the likes of Brandon Kruger between our two Pro-Am battle going on for our championship, with separating two of them and just cruising on his own, lapping almost up all the way into the likes of past 14th overall, but Brandon Kruger still needing to pit, so other cars will be getting the lap times back. But now Brandon Kruger needs to keep a cool head in order to see it to the very, very end of this race and really maximize his points. It will be a day that he will be very, very happy about in order to move all the way from fifth into third place, and not something he would have bargained on at the very start of the race. As Lucan Haynes now into the pits, serving his final pit stop, which will promote the likes of Pitter up into 8th position, but also Collison, who still needs to pit, and Gerrit Bukes spins it into Skyline right before the dipper, blocking entry.
Oh no, that is
contact.
That ended up going into him. Unfortunately, Jackie Alberts gets clipped. Jean Verveers has got damage. Reginald Mutalini gets taken out as Gerrit Bukes tries to get himself going. It has all gone south. Reginald Mutalini down in 20th position and was on a climb, and Bukes unfortunately landed up in a problem. We are getting further reports that he's steering disconnected, and that was the reason it all went wrong for him coming towards top. I mean, are we going to try and pull and see the exact moment it all fell apart for Gerrit Bukes? But for Verveers, who was on a heck of a drive, his race has just evolved into something completely ugly.
Completely ugly is a bit of an understatement there, Stephen. That car is completely smashed to bits. That pony is not going to be a very happy pony, and the doctors will not be very happy, but also trying to get out of the line, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the spotters not being able to react.
This is it. I mean, you could see the moment drivers trying to come through. Reginald Mutalini saw lastminute.com trying to go to the outside, and Gerrit was there. Oh, Larero nearly getting a face full of it as well, as Gerrit Bukes of the Stingers Racing. The race has just evolved into a nightmare for him. John Verveers will drop from 5th place down out of the top 10 at this point. Björn Putter inherits 7th. Gerrit Bukes from 4th overall and 4th in class is getting it absolutely taken away from him in the final race. 3rd place that was on the line is all done for the Stingers Racing.
It's absolutely a race that they would want to forget, because this has gone from bad to worse. A script that could not have been written by anybody else, and absolutely just shocking there. I know the feeling of having a disconnect happen mid-race. Stephen was one of the drivers I shared a car with when that wheel suddenly disconnected. It is absolutely gut-wrenching. Everything just feels like, I've got the drive. Next moment, it just disconnects, and you have no feeling at all. Next moment, it just reconnects, and it snaps you, putting the car into one side and into the wall. And unfortunately, Bjerke is still holding on to 5th in the pro class. but that damage is going to be quite severe, and Bayo Grobler is the closest competitor in terms of our pro class, hoping to hunt down. So not the end of the world for the likes of Bayo Grobler, but a bit of a sight. But for Beerkus, it is a nightmare that has just gotten worse and worse and worse. As you see the likes of Voda hunting down the likes of Heineke, a second covering these two. But these two were not really involved in any shape or form of being held up in that collision that happened with Beerkus. So no, unless they had to take avoiding action, and Heineke unfortunately coming worse off out of it, losing time to the likes of Voda. These two are fighting it out, but Steven, I do see you typing away there, and I'm going to try and give you a bit more time and try to calculate some stuff there, as he's trying to figure out what will happen now in the current standings as they are. What will happen if Heineke lets through the likes of Voda? Because currently, for all the pit stops that have been done so far, Putter is leading out that race there when all stops are done, followed by Lorero, funny enough, who's clawed his way back quite phenomenally, and through the misfortune of everybody else. Then comes Heineke in third, followed by Voda. Now, this is only if the pit stops do take long enough for the other cars in front of him, but I do call that the cars who still to pit in the Pro-Am class still actually have to go and just probably do a splash and dash, meaning it's probably about a 20-second stop, or from pit entry to pit exit. My calculation might even be 30 seconds. Might be something bad, but absolutely gut-wrenching for the likes of Beerkus. So take a look at our grandstands for Stingers Racing, giving us that note for our broadcasting team and slipping it into our ears there. But then also Arjan Balder saying, "Oh, bad luck for Beerkus again." Fortunately, Bathurst cometh, Bathurst taketh, rain taketh, everything away, even championship hopes in terms of a podium. But look at this battle here. Voda, bit of a second gap between the two of them, but hunting down that Mercedes, really putting the floor to the pedal to the metal there, putting it almost through the floorboard and hunting down hard on the brakes, closing some gap down on the Heineke. Heineke, I think, still a bit worried about braking and putting down the throttle fast enough after his spin that he has discovered.
Alright, well, did a little bit of math to try and figure out the bigger issues for Gerrit Dukes. And if he falls behind Bago Grobler and Henry Platt, not only is he going to lose third, he's going to go and drop to fifth in the championship. If Grobler, Platt and Motsagila get ahead of him, that is a big slam dunk out of his race and completely not only takes him off at the knees, that goes a little bit further down the fact that he's not able to fight it out heading into the top 5 of even the championship. I mean, that is just crucial points lost. And for such a moment, he was holding on. There could have been a chance to get first back, to get that fight in, to keep going. But unfortunately, it was just on the cards. Bathurst has really flipped the script on what we know.
No matter what thoughts what you thought you might know going into this race, unfortunately the track determines what's going on as well as the weather. But for Fierce, really a race he wants to forget. Oh, Mitzeleni gone from bad to worse, had the car fixed, and now not blocking the road, coming after Corey Bent, losing it, I believe, just getting on throttle a bit earlier there. Does a beautiful handbrake turn there almost. Well, just a quick flick around. And the car's running again. The car 500 really showing that it is having some internal errors, and maybe even an internal server error, but really trying to... Sorry, I'm going to make a lot of IT jokes. It's fine to see the car with that a car number with that name for the team going around there. Imagine that in real world. But Vessel Voda, seeing that white and green Ferrari taunting him in front of him, hunting him down the gap again as across the timing line previously, less than a second. The Ferrari just seeming to be a bit better compared to the front engine of that Mercedes. But the Mercedes really a long nose, being able to turn just much better in order to get the car in if you use the brakes properly there. But it's all about hard on the brakes, closing that gap as you take a look at the rear wing and how close the likes of the Mercedes getting close. I do believe Voda is the only Mercedes running tonight, not even being the only one in the championship.
Throughout the season, Vessel Voda in the Pro-Am class, and the AMG GT3 Evo has been quite an interesting car. I mean, you can see Vessel is pushing harder and harder, and it's actually getting the rear to step out underneath him, overdriving the car, trying to make it work. Unfortunately, it is starting to take out some time. Ruud Heineke, a little bit late on the brakes, loses out through the dipper. Vesselwoda immediately comes on the attack. He clips a wall, further going and bending the aero. He is desperate to get past Heineke, but he needs Heineke to be further down behind him to be able to make that work. Where Heineke is, even if he finishes behind Vesselwoda by just one position, he still takes the championship. Vesselwoda needs Heineke to make a critical mistake in this race to throw him further down the order and have a chance. Oh no, the contact between
them
the two,
in the gravel.
the devil, and there where it comes. Vesselwoda loses the rear. Heineke's able to get going, but Voda, who lost the rear of the car, gets it all turned round. That was coming off for Conrad. That was not what you want to have through the kick. And here's the helicam of it. Side by side they go. Watch the Mercedes. Clips the white line, loses the rear, has the contact. A spin they go. Bring back on. Heineke beautifully parks it. However, Vesselwoda loses out the position and loses out even more, sacrificing more points in this championship. Vesselwoda is in for a world of hurt and has now got the issue of Vian Putter actually beating him in the championship as well.
That's absolutely not what he would have wanted, but unfortunately, trying to open up the corner, being side by side into that little kink, going into the chase, and unfortunately goes onto where the track is a lot more wetter, and clipping that white line, and white line in any form of wet weather racing is what can be said as dangerous. But take a look, Vian Putter closing down the likes of Jackie Alberts, but in front of them they've got a back marker who moves out of the way, but it's Mustang versus Aston Martin. Again, the British versus the Americans, but the Aston has gotten a lot more power compared to that little Aston Martin, but the Aston Martin sucking right up close under the rim is going to be sticking behind him, be best on the brakes before the corner that is the chase, and hard on the brakes, not being able to move up onto the inside. The likes of Jackie Alberts closing that door, saying, nope, I'm going to take this, thank you very much. Jackie Alberts leading our Pro-Am class so far in terms of pit stops being made, and will probably be also leading it once the likes of Boss of Pits and moves out of the provisional lead for our Pro-Am class. But Pitter really putting on a phenomenal show here, fighting up all the way into the top 10 and putting on a great show for us here in the commentary box, as well as our viewers out there in the grandstand there. But I take a look here and I see another one, Stephen, who likes the jokes of IT. Well, I hope that I can come up with more, because sometimes my brain just disconnects and I don't really know what I'm saying. But I do see.
ID10T error. That's all that you need to do.
I've done that before. And dropped the database.
let's give you this one. Oh, as we do see contact between Jackie Alberts and Putter. Reginald Mitteleni clears, but if Vian Putter can get into first place, he needs to get ahead of Jackie Alberts, which means he will then take second place away from Vesselwoda if Vessel does not go and improve. So at current, we are seeing the likes of Vian Putter fighting for not just only second position. He is on a climb of note. Thierry Duplessis is the other to keep an eye on, because Vian Putter will go and usurp Thierry Duplessis in the process. Thierry Duplessis, if he finishes ahead of Vesselwoda a little bit further up the road even, that means Vesselwoda will fall out of the top 3 in the final 14 minutes of this race. I mean, this is just huge for every single one of the drivers. And our Pro and Pro-Am have been flipping the script continuously during it all. Brandon Kruger, if he finishes in first now, he will take third place in the championship. Unfortunately, Fleming Bauer will not be able to fight out. Bego Hrobler also will fall out, and that, won't be just for third place. He'll be looking at taking second place away from Bego Hrobler. So a bit of a hurt here coming in. Bego Hrobler's in a world of trouble. So is Gerrit Bucas, who was fighting for third place overall. Unfortunately, not working out for him. Gerald Pretorius losing it into the Forest Elbow and pointing in the wrong direction. Not ideal circumstances. This is a nightmare because it is a blind corner that he's going to look at. From the driver's eye, you can see how this is a frightening situation. Utilize the relative, utilize the sponsor, but right now, there is no way you can get going safely without blocking the circuit.
Absolutely, and it's such a tight space. I thought I just saw the Bentley logo popping up in the mirror there. It's such a tight space that no matter what, if you clip the rear wing, you do damage your rear wing no matter what, with it being such a high wall there. But Steven, just take a look there. Gerard Beerkes and Bagel Grobler on the same lap. 17 seconds is a gap between the two of them. Bagel Grobler might have the opportunity to move up into 5th, I believe, of our pro class, meaning he does gain a bit of points, but it will not have a bit of an impact in any of the lead for our championship leader, who's currently not, whose team is not able to ship the car over to Bathurst in order to compete. But Bagel Grobler, really a race he would want to forget after this, and not how he would have wanted to end this championship. But take a look at this, a 3-car fight. Chris Carson splitting the 2 Pro-Am drivers of Jackie Albert and Willem Pitter here, really trying to get past that. But I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, that Mustang does have has gotten quite a bit better top end speed compared to any other car here, and that's something that's been discussed in the paddock quite a lot, and also a fact for our our balance of performance, our BOP. But take a look at this side by side. Do you want to make this move again? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Who bravest on the brakes? Chris Butter backing out, pile up. Chris Heineke facing the wrong way once again. What has happened here?
Chris Heineke looks like Boulder, a bit of an accident. We got to go to the helicam and take a look. That would have been either, he's got Luke and Haynes that's on the back of him in the BMW. So did he just lose the rear? Oh, he clipped the wall. Clipped the wall, and there's Kerry Duplessis into the door as well. Vessel Woda will get past and stretch his legs as far as he can. Ruud Heineke is in some serious, dangerous points falling out of the running here. Vessel Woda needs to clear the likes of Kerry Duplessis at a rate of knots. He's got to try and pick up the pace. Ruud Heineke may be in a very bad situation to lose out the entirety of the championship right in the final 10 minutes of this race.
Should be quite a flipping the script moment there, because it's definitely Heineke's in the pits, yes, I was about to say, because he clipped his right rear, meaning he will have some damage on that right rear suspension, and then got T-boned also by the likes of that Lexus, that monstrous Lexus, meaning the chassis might be a bit bent. Heineke will have to get fixed. Bent steering column, not going to have to drive. That's pretty much going to be championship over, because Vessel Voda is still sticking out, hunting down the likes of Duplessis. I'm going to give Steven a bit more time. He's going to rip up that piece of paper, needing to calculate this, because, ladies and gentlemen, none of us is going to be prepared for this. Our brains aren't able to calculate what is going to happen here. Is this going to be a championship for Vessel Voda, or is Ruud Heineke going to be lucky and going to be counting his stars at the end of this race and clinch onto that podium and as well as the championship in order to win this? We do not know, but Vessel Voda keeping it clean, hunting down, choosing his moment very wisely, trying to close the gap on Duplessis. But all the meanwhile, Anton Lammers, Swan has gotten past the likes of Heineke. Heineke dropping down more and more. Gerard Pretorius also going to be another car getting past him, but Rick, and that's the furthest he's going to fall unless he stays in the pits for another 2 laps. As the likes of Rick Thomas, never mind, Rick Thomas not even down anymore. He is going to be falling past if he stays longer into that pit.
Vessel Woda into the wall! Vessel Woda into the wall! This is bad. This is a nightmare. Vessel Woda would have cleared Ruud Heineke of the championship. Vessel Woda would have cleared the likes of Ruud Heineke if he stayed on the back of Duplessis. He pushed too hard. He got too close to the sun and has thrown away first in the championship. In the final 10 minutes, Heineke saving grace came from Vessel going too hard on the throttle.
Does it throw him completely out of the championship fight, though, Stephen? Because, I mean, Heineke is still down in 17th overall, while Voda is 4th. I mean, look, I'm just quickly looking at our Pro-Am leaders. Currently leading, Pro-Am currently leading is the likes of Bossa, followed by Albert and then Putter. So that's our top 3 there then. 4th is Sean Laredo in our Pro-Am, followed by Hansi Meinberg, who's currently in the pits, but will be doing a splash and dash. And then in 6th position, we got Lucan Haynes, followed by Harry Duplessis. Well, Harry Duplessis in the almighty Lexus, and then Liam Swan there all the way in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th position. Sorry, I couldn't follow there what is going on anymore. 7th position is Swan, 8th is Lamas, and in 9th is the likes of Voda. All the way down in 13th or 12th is Ron Heineke.
This is the thing. Heineke has an option here. He's got a little bit to play for. And Heineke needs to put the hammer down as quick as he can.
I'm getting a bit of a laugh here, Stephen, as I look into our grandstands. Commentator's curse is strong tonight. No. I'm the new commentator, ladies and gentlemen. It's all Stephen Koenig trying to calculate that's causing us. But yes, I am Balder. Don't worry about it. I made sure that Stephen has enough calculating power in his server in order not to get an error 500 with all this calculating going on there.
Okay, so big news here. Heineke will just hold first place in the championship ahead of Vessel Woda if Vessel does not gain any more positions.
But what if Heineke loses one more position?
Gain 2 more positions away from the likes of Heineke, needs to stay at 17th to be able to move up through the order. The pressure is on at the moment for Vessel Woda to really put down as much as he can, but not to count out the fact that with this, Harry Duplessis, who is a little bit further up the road, also has a chance to go for the top running, and at current will not be aiming for first, but if he carries on gaining positions, he will take second place away from Vessel Woda, and that is a big issue. And that's also not chucking in the fact that Fiat Putter at current fighting out with Jackie Alberts for second place in the class. Jackie Alberts is a linchpin for Fiat Putter to take second place in the championship and clearing it by a country mile.
Things have gone from bad to worse, Stephen. And here's another thing that I just realized. Calculations or not, we do not know. There have been incidents all across the race tonight that will have to be settled by our stewards when it comes to that, which might even throw everything out the window again. So we do not know. Into the barrier go to the likes of Alberts. Putter says, thank you very much. I'm going to go by. See you later. Racing Snails, I'm going to go cruising for a bruising.
What on earth is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's all come apart. It's all come off at the seams. Werner Buschhoff goes into pit lane and will be getting some work onto his car. Brandon Kruger, Jason Farmer yet to get their final pit stops in. Same as Motsahile needing to do his final stop. Chris Collison needing to do his final stop. We are seeing the race down to the wire. Championships are on the knife's edge. It's teetering all over the show. And everyone having to figure out what do they need to do to push themselves this little bit further. Chris is into the pits to do his final pit stop, but Tyler Humphries leads out those that have done their pit stops. He's 14.9 seconds away from Jason Farmer, so he will take the jump into second place and get ahead of Jason Farmer by the end of this, which is a big one for Tyler Humphries, because he's had a very, very poor season. Tyler Humphries has had one race, he's had 2 races that he had a result. He got a 15 in round 1, and he got a 18th in round 6. He has yet between that to score another result. To get second, it's a big one. Chris Collison, however, stop-go 30-second penalty for speeding out of the pits, and this is going to be a linchpin for him.
Absolutely not what he would have wanted to happen there, but it will not affect him too much, as unfortunately Well, it's quite clear to any of the Pro-Am closest rivals there, but a phenomenal race so far from Baron Kruger. With all this carnage going on, we haven't been able to we haven't focused pretty much on our race leader so far, but I do think we can say, Stephen, that the Pro Championship is pretty much wrapped up for how it stands, but the one that is on everybody's minds and the tip of their tongue is our Pro-Am. Who is going to win this? I mean, Vesselvoda is now past the likes of Pretorius, it looks like. Well, no, it's still there. So 4 positions back is the likes of Heineke. He's 4 seconds back on the likes of Hansi Myburg, but will he have enough time in order to get there? We do know Hansi Myburg, great driver, gentleman's driver, knows who he's fighting for his championship, and will try not to get as much as possible, but will still fight you for your position. But Harry du Plessis here is the one that is all the way up the road and might throw a spanner in this works.
Harry du Plessis, who is third in the championship, needs to carry on the drive at the moment. He has got the likes of Chris Collison up the circuit to deal with, but Chris Collison still has that stop-go 30 to play for. Lucan Haynes trying to pick up some time. He's behind Jared Baker. Doesn't want to lose out any bit of pace here. And you really can see Jared opens up the door, allows him to take the inside line. Reginald Mutalini opts to go visiting the grass just to stay out of the fight. But Lucan Haynes is in for a good race and able to move forward. Harry du Plessis, who's third in the championship, who is running tied in points with Vian Putter. Now Vian out in first will get 50 points. They'll put him on 260 points, where unfortunately Harry du Plessis will be out of that fight. It depends on what Vesselvoda and Ruud Heineke come into play, because it is a possibility for Vian Putter to jump into second and Harry du Plessis to jump and hold third. This is a major play, and unfortunately we'll see Vesselvoda finishing out of the top 3 by the end of the race. I mean, we've had the likes of Bucas, who held third place in the championship. He was in for the win, and unfortunately, due to a disconnect on the steering wheel, it all fell apart underneath him. But man, oh man, how this race has just flipped the script. It has broken hearts. It's got others holding on to their very last breath as they stand and wait for the checkered flag to come out in 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Absolutely, it's the final minute and 15 of our season 22 of the Raceface Championship. Chris Collinson, I see, went into the pits, but didn't serve his stop-go 30. I'm quite surprised about that. If he does not serve it before the end of this race, he will drop down more. I believe it's about an 80-second penalty that gets applied, especially at the tracks such as Bathurst. But Vesselvoda really trying to hunt down the likes of Hansi Myburg, but will be running out of time as we enter the final minute of our race, of our season, the penultimate lap of around the beautiful circuit that is Bathurst. It's about, the last time I checked, it was about 3.8. Now it's about a 3.3 second gap with across the timing line. It's now hunting down the likes of Myburg. Is that BMW stronger than the Mercedes? We do not know, but it looks like Myburg is really putting on a brilliant fight here, pulling away, using all the power in that front engine, be the tooth car, and pulling away from the long-nosed Merc, and hard on the brakes. But take a look, already a second over the mountain gained. Jason Farmer spinning it in the dipper, not collecting anybody else. Needs to get up to racing speed quite fast in order to avoid collecting anybody else. Seems to have done it quite well, but Vesselvoda taking out a second from the likes of Hansi Myburg. But it will not be enough, as we do have our white flag going, and it looks like just confirmation from the Stingers Racing team. Seems like Chris Collison's pit limiter has been going a bit wonky and not engaging. I mean, we've seen that happen in real world Le Mans, where suddenly that is a very second-hand looking pedacity.
Thomas with damage on his car, also trying to bring it back as he just minded out of the way for second and third of the Pro-Ams are fighting out for this last little bit. Sorry to jump in there, but this is second and third of the Pro-Ams out on circuit. Jackie Albert for the Racing Snails up against Werner Buschhoff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And keep on looking at this gap as they cross the timing line between Myburg and Voda. It got down by 0.2 of a second in the last time they crossed the line. And look again, Voda losing time once again from 2.1 all the way up to 3.5. Losing time as they go past and continuously going past. But Bosov and Albert's fighting it all the way out. The leader is going to take the white flag now, starting our final lap here at the Raceface Season 22 Championship for our GT3 cars. But Myberg really pushing as hard as he can, hunting down the likes of Lammers, but these two might better not get into a confrontation right before the very end, as that will allow the likes of Voda to gain 2 positions and maybe, just maybe, by the hair of its teeth, be able to secure that championship. But it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. We do not know, as some things might change behind the scenes, and this will be provisional until we get the final results.
Well, Brandon Kruger coming to the line, has fought it out all season to battle it right all the way back. A nightmare Kylobi, and it works out here at Bathurst. Brandon Kruger comes across the line and will secure 3rd place in the championship. Henry Mayer takes 1st, Bago Krubler takes 2nd, and Brandon Kruger from 5th will finish in 3rd place.
Absolutely a beautiful drive from Brandon Kruger, leading from start to finish and not making any doubts, not putting up any doubts, saying, I have proven I'm stronger. But Hansi Marburg holding on. Lammers losing 2 positions. Voda moving up into 12. That puts... Hold up. Flip the script.
Voda got 13th.
12.
Able to get the pass done.
12, look at the gap there. Sorry, Stephen, look at the gap. 0.012 was the gap between Voda and Lammers, according to the timing tower that we have currently on screen here. But leading out our pro-ams for the race victory is Vian Pater. A phenomenal drive, really putting up the battles, keeping his nose clean, making some contacts here and there, but leading down the final time down the hanger straight, I believe it's called. Can't remember that. There's too many straights.
Conrad.
And into the kink. Is this Conrad? I don't even know. Then into the chase, hard on the brakes for the final time. Right, left, right. Can see the checkered flag in the distance into the final corner. Oh boy, and here goes Vian Pater into the final corner on the brakes for the final time this season and crosses it across the line and wins the Pro-Am class for Season 22 at Bathurst.
And puts himself firmly in 2nd place of the championship, ahead of Gerry Duplessis and Vessel Woda down the order. What a nightmare affair for some, and others a little bit more tricky, as Bago Krubler just limping the car across the line. A championship that could, would, and unfortunately became a nightmare. We have got Brandon, oh man, Bago falling down the order. He's out of fuel. He's out of fuel.
He's been crawling and holding clutch in, but oh boy. From bad to worse, bad dreams become nightmares.
Oh man.
And nobody will be able, he will be classified as a non-finisher, I believe, if this continues. Nobody, let's hope he can get on the horn for somebody saying, guys, please push me across the line, get his teammates. Heartbreak, gut-wrenching for Bago Krubler, from an absolutely promising start to an instantly lap 1 to nightmare. This is something that you do not want to write back home for the folks.
Oh man, it is a heart-wrenching moment, and this has been one heck of a race. Honestly, to think about it, we came into this race having an idea of who will be able to win. We have so far seen everything change between Kylobi and Bathurst. The entire Pro Championship change, the entire Pro-Am Championship change. What a great race, but unfortunately, Lady Luck showed her hand and fought it out till the very end. While we take a look back some of these highlights of the race, the incredible race that we had, we also going to be waiting for a possible provisional results at the end of the championship. I know Hansi Myberg's going to be going onto it, trying to sort it out. I'm going to bug him to give you all a provisional championship standings for round 8. But Cameron, what a race.
I don't think the words "what a race" really sums up what we experienced here tonight, Stephen. It's an emotional roller coaster that we've experienced out here tonight, and I do not know how we're going to make this work. I mean, I do not want to be a part of that stewarding team that's going to determine how this is going to fall, and also who's going to win this. It's it's just something that I just don't know how we are going to be able to do it. But I mean, look at that shot of that Pedassi infiltrate slowing down for that incident we had on lap 1 at the race start. But it's been an up and down roller coaster. Strips has been flipped numerous times, ripped up on the production floor, torn to pieces. Nobody knows what's going on. We're trying to get calculations of what has gone on, who has taken the provisional championship before anything gets sorted. But it's gone and completely destroyed everything that we came into this race knowing, okay, this is what the championship looked like. This is who has wrapped it up in a beautiful bow and shipped it to themselves, has gone and pretty much stopped the package mid-transport.
Honestly,
it's absolutely
been
shocking.
Such an incredible race, but I know we got a couple of drivers that are itching to come and have their say and give their thoughts on such an amazing race here at Bathurst.
Absolutely amazing race here, but I don't know. We're bugging our race control and everybody to give us a bit of a understanding here, but I don't know. I think for the time being, Stephen, we start pulling in our winners our Pro-Am winner for the race that we just witnessed tonight. Let's go and welcome in Vian Butter here. Vian, welcome to a dry commentary box. And
yeah, at least.
we're trying to make sense of what is going on and what the championship is. It's been turning up and down, accidents left, right, and center. But that's just from what we saw. Tell us, how did you experience it out there during this chaotic race?
Yeah, no, at least it's dry. No, it was hectic. The race was terrible. All I remember is in lap 4, I think. I went down the hill and I just did a 180 and I was still alive, so I just sent it. Well, after all, it was a fun race. Just keep the bumpers off the walls and yeah.
You mentioned the accident that you encountered there, where they were going down into the dipper there, and yeah, I mean, we've seen battles between you and the likes of Jackie Alberts, but also, I mean, you came back from winning Kyalami last weekend. If I do stand on a correction here, Stephen, you went on one Kyalami last weekend, and that propelled you into quite a good standings in overall for this race, and now going winning back to back. How does that? How do you take this into account for everything?
Kyalami, I had a bad race, Kyalami. I did not finish first. But what I can remember in last week is because I T-boned someone in Eka, because he did not step on his brake and it was all a mess, and yeah, it was chaos. But at the end of the day, won the first and the second race of the season, come back to try and race again. Just get my head in there and just try and survive a bit and just do a little bit better, because it seems to me that lap 1 incidence is heavy. So as long as you can keep it clean, you'll have a good race.
Well, I think that's something that many drivers will be reflecting upon. But I'm going to give you the floor. Wait, Stephen, do we know where Butter has finished? I do believe he threw a bit of a spanner into our calculations.
Well,
provisionally.
On a provisional note, if my math stuck out, and hopefully it has, Vian Butter, you would have not only gone and taken the fight to Gerry du Plessis in third, but quite possibly might have just taken second in the Pro-Am Championship for season 22.
Hey, look at that. Hey, that's a lack of feeling, at least.
Well, with this new news now, and again, provisionally, we're still waiting for everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you the floor, and as well as the mic, and feel free to say what you want. Keep it PG-13. Keep it PG actually, not even 13. Just keep it PG. And yeah, the floor is yours. After that, we'll let you go and celebrate with your team.
Thank you, Cameron. No, I just want to say thanks to Raceface for making all this possible, and for the sponsors out there that's helping the community grow, and for we are grateful for that. So we just enjoy the time sitting in the Sims and just have a good time, and that's what it's about. So if you can sit and you can spend some time behind it, there's nothing better than that. So from our side, I just want to say thanks to everyone. Thanks to Ansi, thanks to Stephen for the stream, for making all this, possible, and for the commentary and all of that.
Wise words and kind words have been spoken quite well. I look over to my co-commentator here, giving the thumbs up and saying thank you very much. But Vian Pitter, I'm going to let you go and celebrate with the team there, and go and enjoy this victory, as well as even a podium in our overall championship standings. Congratulations on a phenomenal race.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your afternoon. Okay,
Thank you, Vian, there. As we bring in the likes of Werner Boshoff, our third place in our Pro-Am race tonight. Werner, walk us through this. I spoke with Vian previously. It was absolute carnage out there on track. For us, it looked like carnage. How was it for you as a driver?
Yeah, it was quite hectic. There were people spinning all over the place, and the tires were quite an issue. But fast laps and consistency just took us to third.
Well, you pretty much said the secret to Bathurst with these conditions is just consistency and, well, just keeping it safe there. Was it a bit of a challenge in order seeing all these cars, especially that lap one incident? I'm pretty much sure the entire grid slowed down quite significantly because of that roadblock going into the cutting.
Yeah, that first lap incident actually is what put me in third place, because I got about 8 kilometers per hour cut off my top speed, and I felt that in the last lap. Couldn't overtake Alberts.
Well, yeah, I mean that lap one it's going to be something quite significantly, but I'm going to give you this floor now here to take some words off your chest, and just reach out and say thanks, or just give a shout out to anybody out there, some supporters, or even just anybody out there. So the floor is yours. PG is the rule. You can give it there.
No, for sure. Thanks to everyone for creating season 22. It was quite a success. Thanks to the sponsors. Thanks to the spectators, and obviously thanks to Stephen for the awesome casting, and yourself joining us. Yeah, and thanks to my team.
Thank you, Werner. I'm going to say Werner. Werner there for some great words there. And I'm going to let you go and also celebrate with your teammate, Vian Patter, who won the race tonight. And as I don't know if you might have heard, but might have gotten second in the Pro-Am provisionally until everything gets sorted. So I'm going to let you go to celebrate with your team there.
Thanks.
Now, Steve, I'm going to bring in the likes of our Pro class now, with the likes of Jason Farmer. Jason Farmer, who has put on quite a fight last night in our LMU Championship, jumps from that sim into what can only be described as a very wet Bathurst. Jason, welcome to the commentary box. You can grab a coffee on the way out to warm yourself up, because it's nice and hot in here with our heaters. Just leave my coffee alone. You can take some of Steven's. But welcome to the commentary box. Walk us through this race.
How's it, Cameron? Steven, how are you guys?
Yeah, we're good. That battle.
Yeah, wow, it was crazy first lap, obviously, with the bit of the carnage up front. And then, yeah, from there it was pretty smooth sailing, like just sticking to like the normal strats. As soon as the lap times got a bit too slow, then we'd jump in for wets. Tyler up front, just in front of me, he was driving a great race. I just couldn't close the gap to him. And I kind of put it in the wall once or twice, so I was driving a bit of damage as well. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty good. I was lucky in the beginning with the whole pile up and whatnot in turn 3. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty good. Sketchy, but good.
Oh, you mentioned that it's going to be a talking point for many of us, well, the fans as well in this commentary box. I mean that lap 1 incident was one that destroyed championship hopes. It destroyed podium finishes for many of our front runners. Just, I mean, it took out two of our top 4 within a split second, pretty much, of just seeing what's going on. We blinked and we missed it. What I'm hoping that maybe you can give us some, you and Tyler might give us some clarification about how did you see it unfold in front of you?
Yeah, so I actually couldn't see anything because I was right behind Sean, and that Mustang's rear is quite large. So I just saw an Aston Martin somewhere sideways, and yeah, we just kind of all just shouted, keep left," to try and avoid it. Yeah, and unfortunately for that accident, it kind of nullified the race. But yeah, like I suppose things happen there.
Well, you said it. Those things happen, and well, you got to reap the rewards of it. Got on the lucky side. Lady Luck smiled down upon thee, and but as we go into the ending of the season, I'm gonna give you your opportunity to shine and say farewell to season 22 of our Raceface GT3 Championship from your side.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, thank you to all the admin, Hansi, Bertus, you guys for keeping everything running, putting an awesome season together. It's been really, really fun. The drivers as well, for everybody sticking through. And actually, we have a decent sized grid for the last race, which was cool. And then obviously for you guys, Stephen, Cameron, you guys do an awesome job in the commentary booth. Yeah, it keeps us all amped and vibing with the racing. So yeah, that's really cool. And then obviously last to all the supporters, everybody that comes through to watch the streams and keeps all of us motivated to put on a good show. Yeah, thank you everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Jason Farmer. I'm going to let you go and support, well, celebrate with the team there. You have your trustworthy and loyal supporter, Antonio Gamble, in the grandstands that have been cheering you on in both LMU as well as ACC. So I'm going to let you go and celebrate with the team. Well done on tonight's finish as well as a phenomenal race.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
So Jason Farmer, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring in now the likes of Tyler Humphreys, one of the only 2 Mustangs that survived the initial carnage from our top 4, I believe, that started at the front of the grid. Tyler, welcome to the commentary box, and congrats on the second, but also, what happened in that entire race? It's been absolute carnage.
Good evening, everybody. Carnage would be an understatement. It was mayhem. The beginning, I was watching the stream now and I heard you asking Jason. So I was involved, pretty much going down. I started 4th, going to turn 1, made it into 3rd. Turn 2, got alongside, I don't know, Bago. I think it was Bago. I got alongside and I don't know, it was just one of those incidents where you're turning into one another, and we caught ourselves up, got ourselves going straight again, and then the 3rd Mustang just shot it on the inside of Bago, and there's a little bit of a wall there. And he hit the wall into Bago, and then everyone into Bago, and yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, well, you summed up there, and yeah, it's a race. Well, it's an incident that caused a bit of shuffling up and down the entire grid. Pretty much, drivers avoiding that. But now, here's a question with regards to this. I do know that during this entire week leading up to this race, the paddock was abuzz with what the forecast is going to say. Everybody worried about monsoon-like weather, prepping the cars for a extremely wet weather race. But tonight, and I was saying it's a bit undrivable. Tonight's conditions pretty much seem to balance out a balance between wet weather as well as a very little bit of dry weather. How do you think the setup handled this? From what was gathered through information earlier in the week.
So I would say it's a good way to level out the playing field. Obviously, we're very used to dry conditions. You know, just slap on a set of slicks and go be fast. But when you add a little bit of liquid into the mix, it really does change things up. For example, the race it started dry, and we went to rainy conditions. So there's a cut-off period in between there where it's like, right, okay, this is the perfect moment to go to wets from slicks, and that it takes quite a bit of skill and knowledge to understand where that is, because if you go, right, it starts raining, put on wets now, you're going to do 2-3 laps, the track's not wet enough to keep those wets cool, and you're just going to destroy them. So it's a good measure on how to gauge your racecraft. I'd say that to understand where the race is going and what direction you should go to minimize your race time. So it's really cool.
You said it best, and I do know there's a saying that is spoken in both real world and sim that wet weather racing, rain is the best equalizer when it comes to any form of racing. But I'm going to let you take the stage now. The mic is yours. And any final words as you say farewell to season 22 of our Raceface GT3 Championship?
Yeah, I mean, season 22 was great. A lot of ups, downs, sideways, all of that in the middle. It was good. I just want to say well done to everyone who competed. It was really, really fun with all of you guys. Very challenging. Thank you to our sponsors as well. They really, really do help us out a lot. And admins, all of those who get everything sorted. I'm not going to list you guys' names because there's just way too many of you, but I appreciate everything you guys do to get us on the track. And Stephen and Cameron, the voices are iconic and enthusiastic, so please keep it up. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much from myself and Stephen here. As Tyler Humphries, I'm going to let you go, celebrate with your team, enjoy this the second place at a very tricky track as well in very weird weather conditions. But Tyler Humphries, congratulations, and
thank you so much.
Go enjoy it.
Good evening.
Well, Stephen, I guess that's that. That's the wrap on season 22 of our GT3 ACC Championship. It's what other way can you really end it? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's been a season of highs and lows, changes throughout, and this race has not only gone and changed the championship and changed drivers, even well before the broadcast, I landed up not being able to talk and running out of breath, hence why the legendary voice of Cameron de Bastos was dragged away from going to the gym to come and assist. So massive, massive thank you to you, Cam, on bringing the legendary voice in and carrying the whole show. Well, I was pretty much being connected to a turbo, as I say, always connected to an Asper pump. But honestly, season 22 has been an eye-opener for many, many drivers. In Pro-Am, and Am, it has been a fight of note throughout it all, and honestly, it's been fantastic. I really, really look forward to season 23. I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break, a little bit of fun to be had, but a massive shout out to our sponsors, Virtual Motorheads, Simulator Cave, SPR, and Rhino Utility for being with us throughout the season, being a part of the show. And I think for anyone that's sticking around, we can give a little bit of a spoiler because I've got a live mic and not a single person can stop me. End of this month, we do have EG Evolved coming on board with Raceface.Pro, being a big sponsor with us. And that means not only we got Simulator Cave and EG going and supporting the same league, working hand in hand with one another on some amazing stuff. So keep an eye on all the social media, keep an eye on the broadcast, because everything is about to go and fall off. And it's going to go wild. It's going to go mad. Cam and I are going to land up going and talking about golf at some point, I think.
Well, I don't really know much about golf, Stephen, but yeah, great news to have an amazing sponsor such as the likes of EG Evolves returning back again to Raceface and helping us, working alongside our other sponsor, Simulator Cave, both phenomenal leaders in the field of simulator hardware, sim hardware, not only just for sims, but also for any of our aviation enthusiasts. They are more than welcome there also. But, Stephen, we have a little guest here with us here. The legendary man himself. Never mind, he dipped. Yeah, he's back. He's not going to slip out so fast, Hansi. We got you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our amazing organizer, Hansi Myberg, the man, the myth, the gentleman driver, the boss man, Hansi Myberg, in the comms box with us here. Hansi, we've bugged you. We've pestered you. Please put us out of our misery for some provisional standings. Please tell me you have them.
I've not loaded them yet, guys. Jeez, I stepped into the wrong room at the wrong time, yeah. I can quickly try and see what I can organize, but yeah, I've not loaded them up yet. Let's see what we can do.
Well, we hoped, Stephen. We hoped, but we're not going to push too much. I do know that you're tired after this amazing race, but Hansi, I do want to give you the mic as well as the floor in order for a final farewell as well as final thoughts from your side for our Season 22 championship that has ended in a spectacular way.
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining this season, and I hope you all join for the next one. It was a lekker season. Like I said, I just always pitch up and drive, but this race, I was quite impressed with myself to keep it out there. And yeah, sorry for all the guys that was involved in the incident up there in the front, but it happens to some of us, eh?
You said it there exactly. But for myself and Stephen Koenig, I think we're going to say good night for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Stephen, I want to say thank you for inviting me. Yes, you pulled me out of the gym, but to be fair, do we really want to gym in this cold weather? And also, we have to protect the golden voice of Raceface.Pro as well as South African Sim Racing, Stephen Koenig's voice. We have to be very careful with his voice there. But ladies and gentlemen, from myself, Stephen Koenig, the TST production team, as well as Raceface.Pro and all around the organizing force behind all of our amazing championships, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us in this amazing championship, and just on a phenomenal note to end this championship. But also, thank you for having me join and broadcast these talents to our amazing fans and also to assist us. Bit of a legend next to me, you know. But from myself, Stephen Koenig, TST Production, as well as Raceface.Pro, I want to say thank you to everybody, as well as good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good night to everybody.